Crazy. Well, I hope, I guess it doesn't really matter if it doesn't really matter if the camera's in focus or not. I hope it is. With the screen on the back of the DSLR, and it's so bright and sunny out, I can't believe I'm getting the odd piece of service here right now. Anyway, I can't see the screen. It's too bright and too small to tell if the camera is in focus or not. I guess it doesn't really matter, does it? Really. But anyways, tail end of this last trip, we're filming steelhead and river fishing. Huge success. Got some fish. And more exciting, I filmed some steelhead in the river. Live wild steelhead in one of the most hurting rivers for steelhead I fish. Very, very, very difficult. Very, very few fish. And but it sure was a good time. And I crunched some goals. So I'm going to share some emails now. I started to read this one on the river, and then the microphone ran out of. I started to read this on the river, but then the SD card said it was full, so I don't know how much on the river got recorded, but I'll cut it in here after. Dear Steve, many thanks for all your revelations on these creatures. I sent you this email months ago, and I've watched all your videos in anticipation of you watching you read it. Sorry this is long, but necessarily so for clarity. Below as previously sent, I wish to send you this document that I wrote immediately after the event so I could write with accuracy and clarity. I'm a huge fan of your videos. Thank you very much for that, sir. I'm a 67-year-old semi-retired oil field geologist. I'm sending you this while in a 10-day quarantine in preparation for working in Suriname, South America. That sounds like an adventure. I've spent my whole life hunting and fishing and lived to elk hunt and will continue to do so until I must crawl up the mountains and roll back down. Same. I've had 5 other run-ins with these creatures over the years, but only one clear visual sighting. One of my sons had one peek into the open windows of the wall tent. When I tell my story to the younger generation, they think I'm crazy. When I tell it to the old seasoned woodsmen, they are not surprised. My old grandfather was a timber cruiser and cryptically told me years ago to never go into the woods unarmed because something is always watching. Side note, to make this weirder, the next year I went back the same place to view the structure which was still there. Then I went to the sighting and found a dead mule deer. The deer was gutted and the lower legs removed. I found no bullet wound or arrow. The gutting was not done with a knife. There was no gut pile or even bloodstains on the ground. It looked like it had been dropped in place. This made me nervous, and I never returned to that place. These events will not keep me from hunting. I'm more cautious and aware of my surroundings, and will always pack a 454 Castle. It makes me less nervous. Below is a document for your amusement. October 20th, 6:15 p.m., Clark County, Idaho, 2015. Observed 2 Bigfoot walking up the trail that I was hunting on. My father, brother, and I were camped on the head of the swampy draw on Pleasant Valley Creek during the cow elk muzzleloader season. Camp location, and then he put in the GPS coordinates. I won't bother reading out those numbers. 16.5 miles north by northwest of Du Bois, Idaho, as the crow flies. 25 driving miles east on Pleasant Valley Road to Interstate Highway 25. South on the highway past Spencer, then on to Du Bois, Idaho. Camp was 7,054 feet elevation. General topography is pine-covered mountainsides with grassy/mixed alder brush and sage brush valley floors. We've been hunting elk and deer for 5 days and saw lots of deer on the hillside above camp, 250 yards away from the rangefinder, and a few elk. After spending days exploring around the area, we decided to hunt the deer right at camp. My father is 86 and walks with a cane, so he hunts close to camp. For the evening hunt, my father walked up the hill behind camp, 100 yards, then my brother positioned himself a few hundred yards along the base of the hillside. I decided to take my ATV up Swampy Draw and sit at the head of it for evening. That way we would have a fairly large area covered. Swampy Draw has an old logging road right up the middle of it, but the access from Pleasant Valley is difficult. I managed to get up the road on my ATV, leaving camp at 2:30 p.m. as I wanted to be in hunting position early and let the area quiet down way before prime hunting hours. Prior to the night hunt, I explored a skid road. They climbed to the east side of the draw and hooked north toward camp. The climb disturbed the area, so I headed back down to the main logging road, then turned up to the head of the Swampy Draw and positioned myself for the evening hunt. At 6:15 p.m., I saw two figures coming up the trail towards me at approximately 200 yards. I thought it was two hunters that were blowing my evening hunt, but as they came into full view, I saw that they were black in color. Most hunters in the area have some sort of blaze orange on them or are dressed in camo. These figures were not dressed. They were walking side by side, and I suspect they are a male and female pair, although the distance was too great to identify sex. I estimate the height of one at approximately 8 foot and the other 7.5 feet. I could not see any facial features at my observation distance. My overall impression was that they were incredibly tall and rather slender. As they saw me, they turned to my left and disappeared into the timbered hillside. As they turned and walked into the timber, I saw very long arms, almost to the knees. They swung their arms in fairly long arcs as they walked, much like a human power walker. It was then that I remembered that I had left my .454 Castle pistol in camp and had the single-shot .54 cal muzzleloader with me, an oversight I will never duplicate. The whole sighting took approximately 20 seconds. Since the creatures were between myself and camp with only one way out, I waited 10 minutes for them to hopefully clear the area. I put my rifle across my lap and I headed back to camp. Distance to camp was only a bit over half a mile. Halfway to camp, I came across a roadblock on the trail in a small creek that had not been there when I came in. The creatures had picked up a large log and placed it in the creek to block my way. As it was getting dark, with a bit of adrenaline and heavy-handed throttle, I managed to climb the ATV over the smaller end of the tree. The next day I went back to the barricade only to find that during the night the creatures had improved their efforts and completely blocked the trail with additional logs and stumps. See the pictures. The logs they placed in the trail were too heavy for 3 men to pick up, and I could find no evidence of dragging. They were picked up and carried. What enormous feat. To make the story a bit weirder, my father kept talking about a stick fort that some kids must have made about 200 yards from camp at the base of the hill. My brother said it must have been made by some Boy Scouts, but nobody uses the area. I went and found the stick structure, and it was clearly evident that it was not man-made. The main structure tree was pulled down in an arc, and no 3 men would have the strength to perform the task. Masses of sticks were then woven into the frame to produce a hollow area approximately 6 feet by 12 feet. See attached picture. My father said it looked like it had been recently used. I think that the course of events were as follows. I came up the logging road on my ATV, explored the spur road that climbed the hill to our camp and close above the stick structure. I disturbed the creatures and they built the barricade. Then they came up the road and showed themselves to me as if to say, "Hey, here we are and you should not be." I never went past the barricade again. When I took the pictures, I looked very closely for footprints, but could not find any clear prints in the hard, gravelly ground. Of note, the evening of the sighting, my brother and father counted over 30 deer on the hillside in the area of the structure. After my sighting, we saw no more deer during the 4 days we continued hunting. Also, during the night, I heard my horse trailer tack door open and shut, which I thought was odd. I stored the camp food in my tack room, and nothing was missing. I know I had the door tightly shut in case of the odd bear wandering into camp. It takes fingers to work the latch, and the door was not latched when I found it in the morning. The other pictures of the green, broken, and stacked pine limbs were taken by me during an elk hunt in the Caribou Mountains, 30 miles west side of the Grand Teton Mountains in Wyoming. Pictures are from the Idaho side. I walked into this, for lack of a better word, nest, while exploring a drainage for elk. The area is very remote, has never been logged. I saw nobody in the area during the 10 days I was there. If you blow up the picture, you can see a human-like track, especially the toe imprints. My own boots did not leave tracks in the forest floor. I think that I disturbed a creature in the building process and it took off. The size of the branches that were twisted and broken off were way too big for any human to break, not to mention that it was green, fresh branches, which are harder to break than dry wood. Yep, crazy as it sounds, Bigfoot are real. Seeing is believing. Keep your powder dry and your nose to the wind. Craig Anderson, exploration geologist, retired, Eagle, Idaho. P.S. Feel free to use my name, as I am too old to give a shit what anyone else thinks. I also attached the email as a Word document in hopes that may be easier to read. Craig, I absolutely appreciate you emailing me, man, to share with all the people through me. Thank you very much. And it's something else, isn't it? I wonder why they do that. I don't understand why they block the trail after somebody's gone past it when they know they got to get back out that way. It doesn't make sense to me. And if anybody thinks it's a tactical thing to do a bit of a stalk and stop them so they can pounce on you, it's not the case. Because if they really wanted you, they're just going to come and get you. Right? They don't have to put a log across to block your ATV. But it's definitely an odd habit that they have picked up along the way and what they do to people. I don't understand it myself. But thanks for sharing that with everybody. Guarantee, well, we've already heard similar incidents, experiences from numerous people already with the exact same thing numerous times, right? Glad you're safe and nobody got harmed. Here's another one. Steve, my name is Tim from Northwest Pennsylvania near Lake Erie. You can use my name and location. I will give this in chronological order. Back in the late 70s, a friend of mine lived on a desolate road in a trailer that had no electricity or running water. Several of us would stop by and have a few brews and a little bud, usually after we left the bar. I was usually the last to leave, and I remember I would go get this creepy, uneasy feeling going to my truck to leave. Never could figure out why. Then I started backing in so I could just drive out without backing out to the road when I left. Another friend was visiting one evening, and the owner ran out of smokes, so the visitor stayed while he went to get smokes. While he was sitting there waiting, he said something hit the trailer really hard and really spooked him. It happened several more times, and he was so scared that when the owner got back, he met him at the door and said he had to leave. It wasn't until several days later the visitor told the owner about what had happened, and nobody said much till years later. Now, my dad hunted back then. I was growing up in Clearfield, Pennsylvania, hunting whitetails, small game, and even rattlesnake hunting. Now, my dad always hunted along the railroad tracks or the woods along the blacktop, only 50 or so yards in. Never would go back in large squares of that area, and it was located in the same area as my friend's trailer. My uncle, his brothers, always wondered why my dad never went way into the woods as they used to when they were growing up. So the years passed. My father passes in 92. Computers are coming into use everywhere with the interweb. I always liked the paranormal, sci-fi, and Bigfoot, especially when I saw the PG film. I even looked on the BFRO cough site and looked up their sightings in and around our area, and there were a few through those years. So after watching and digging all the info available, pieces of this puzzle came together. Those uneasy feelings leaving in those early hours. The one guy getting the shit scared out of him. He would never stop at night after that. My dad's aversion to going into the woods. I've only told a few people about these events, and surprisingly, nobody has ridiculed or told me I'm full of shit. Sorry it is a little long, but I'm not a proficient typer, so it takes me a while. Love what you're doing, and there is much in this world we do not know. Please be safe out there, and remember Mr. Macaroni will always be in your heart. Yes, he will. Thank you for those kind words, Tim. That's from Tim Siders. It's funny how now the knowledge is being shared from all the people, which is absolutely powerful, don't you think? When you give all of the people the power, you give all the people their own voice and let her rep, and it becomes pretty powerful and something else, doesn't it? And thanks for sending that email in, man. Absolutely appreciate it. And yeah, all the hints are there for what was more than likely having his amusing himself with terrorizing the people in the trailer, right? There's no shortage of these things doing that. For all you people out there who possibly might think you're upset with me not vetting every single email, well, I guess I should say I feel it's rather, I don't know what to say. I mean, you're offering me up all of your power just like that and giving it to me, so you can look for me to do to tell you what you should or shouldn't hear. It's quite incredible, but I'm going to have to pass on allowing all you people who complain about that to give me that power, and you're going to have to use your own power, your own intuition, and your own common sense to make of these emails what you will, take from them what you will, or leave them alone, right? Nobody in this planet is in a position to dictate or so-called fact check what all you get to hear or not, and that is true. The internet has proved that quite smoothly, hasn't it? Everybody gets a voice, and I am not falling into the not trust anyone camp again. That is what I think has possibly been part of the biggest downfall for all of us as a society, is not trusting one another. Who started that? It's got to stop. Making us all question each other, making us all fight with each other. People wanting power and control and wanting you to think something and not wanting you to know another. It's come to an end. It's come to an end for me anyway. I hope it's coming to an end for a lot of you out there as well. But anyway, it's kind of windy here. Oh, there's a helicopter, login helicopter way back there. Just heard it. Of course. They're flying logs off the mountain. But anyway, I'm going to carry on, and maybe I'll find a cool spot and set the camera up again, and I will stop and do another couple email shares as I travel home. Well, the sun's out, but it's definitely not warm down here, I'll tell you what. It's kind of weird, there's a swamp back there. It was dead quiet, and then all of a sudden, these frogs just went ape shit, and they were so loud it was ridiculous. Let's see if it happens again. Whatever. Do I look over my shoulder? Yeah, all the time. Who wouldn't, right? Let's see how this goes. Share one. Share some more. Sharing more. It's endless. Lower Kenai Peninsula. Hello Steve, I've watched your videos for a while now and I love hearing everyone's stories. Get excited when I see a new video of yours pop up on YouTube. Just want to give you a heads up. It's going to be a very long email. I'm Alaskan native from the Lower Kenai Peninsula and still live in my home town of Port Graham, Alaska. I'm sure you've heard of the hairy man from Portlock, also known as Port Chatham, Alaska. I grew up listening to stories of the Nuntinuk, known as Bigfoot in our language. These stories were told to us by elders who have lived in Port Chatham with their parents and grandparents. They were the ones who fled the land due to encounters of the Nuntinuk. I wished I had recordings of all the stories that were told of when they lived there, so I'm a firm believer of Bigfoot and was always fascinated by the stories the elders told. In May of 2016, I heard that there was a timber cruising project going to happen in Port Graham, as well as Windy Bay, Rocky Bay, also on the Kenai Fjords. I was so excited about this opportunity of cruising and had to jump on it. So at the time I resigned from my job as a school secretary to go out and adventure and see more of our native land, talk about the time of our lives with a job being out in the wilderness, hiking throughout the day with some very awesome co-workers. I don't regret ever walking away and working at the school because I'm out from timber cruise. Not feeling relaxed. And the hair's standing up the back of my neck, straight up honest. No, every hair of my body's standing turning to wire right now. Big time. Wow, every single hair in my head is turning to wire from head to toe. Huh. Yep, I'm good. Time to go. No. No, there's nothing relaxing about this right now. I don't know why. Weird. I got absolute hair on end right now. Yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna move to another, keep driving. I'll stop somewhere else. It just doesn't, I don't feel comfortable with my back to this timber right now. I don't know why. No, I'm good. I'll swing the camera and show you what I'm seeing. I don't think I've had this happen before. So I heard some knocks at one time in the timber a couple months ago. Alright. I'm gonna move off, carry on. I'm gonna carry on somewhere else.